This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening all, I'm Shashina Rule. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping the news, the Freeport City Council is embroiled in yet another dispute, and the recent decision reportedly made by the chief counselor is being called into question. Joan Davis-Roll has our top story.
Controversy rocks the City of Freeport Council once again, and at the core of this dispute is a contract issued in excess of $100,000. In a recent council meeting, councilors said they agreed on one thing, but the chief counselor did another.
I said one part. What did they use to commence work on our parks, our basketball courts?
What they would have used is a letter of commitment. A letter of commitment.
So you committed the council to build a letter of commitment?
A letter of commitment.
Instead of one park being resurfaced at $15,000, council members say they got the shock of their lives when they were given this piece of information.
The chief counselor took it upon herself after the approval of one park and issued them a letter of commitment for all of our parks, which totaled the sum of $160,000, which we did not budget for this fiscal period.
I was rather disturbed about it because, like I said, for the amount of money that we're going to spend for us, we could do much more work in the community with that money, with the 9 councillors that we have in place.
How could you do a letter of commitment without the councillors knowing that letter should have been tabled in our regular meeting for us to be able to say, well, okay, this is the case, you know, and yes, you have a misunderstanding, but a misunderstanding between $15,000 and $160,000, where are we gonna find the funds? We need roads in Hudson to be fixed in Pioneer. We need a park in Heritage. We need so much things. We need a wall built. How are we gonna spend $160,000 on servicing basketball courts when we have to touch lives?
We made a decision to cease and desist all work and business with this company. She admitted that she was wrong, and she claims that she made a mistake and had a misunderstanding, but we were saying that if you misunderstood something, you should have contacted all of your colleagues to clarify the position.
In response, Chief Counselor Shavita Campbell had this to say.
The motion came to the table, and from that, it was from my understanding, it was to engage to do the work. And so therefore, an approval would have been forwarded to the relevant company.
One park, though.
Like I said again, it was a misunderstanding within council. And so we would have went back to the table. They have asked to stop the project, at least to put it on hold, and it's been placed on hold.
That's what she's been doing since she came to office. And we would have had Administrator Williams, who is now the director, who would have reprimanded her, and it's in the minutes, for such practice. We would have made her pay for certain things that she would have taken upon herself and did without council's approval under the Administrator Williams.
Joan Davis-Roll, ZNS Network News.
In other news, the Greater Houston Black Chamber of Commerce continuing with its trade mission here on Grand Bahama by exploring business opportunities on the island. The organization comprises of over 500 African American business persons and elected officials. Here again is Megan Shepard with this report.
Members of the Greater Houston Black Chamber of Commerce still on Grand Bahama as they meet with officials in various organizations. While at the Ministry of Grand Bahama, the group was able to hear from the Honorable Dr. Michael Darville plans for future projects for the island. Houston City Councilman Larry Green noting the commonalities shared in regards to the development and expansion of the ports of entry in both countries.
It's very exciting to hear all of the opportunities here in the Bahamas, especially with the widening of the port. Not sure if you know, but we're actually going through the same thing with regard to our port. We're dredging and expanding, doubling the capacity of our port, making it the second largest port in the United States behind New York. And we're pleased to hear that we have that opportunity perhaps to partner with regard to oil and gas. The oil and gas sector, as you know, Texas is huge in oil and gas, and have the ability to perhaps to partner with your port in moving those across the country.
Vice Mayor Pro Tem for the City of Houston, Jerry Davis, also noting his excitement for future partnerships. He says he was pleased to have the opportunities for entrepreneurs on Grand Bahama.
All the things that you're moving and bringing forward is an opportunity for us to see how you're doing it here. and maybe hopefully we can take some of the things that you're doing here and bring it back to Houston within our small districts, which create the city of Houston. So we thank you and your staff for opening your doors and allowing us to be here today.
Megan Shepard, SUNY Network News.
Well, Bahamian students are excelling at a premier maritime college in the United States. During a recent luncheon with local industry stakeholders, the president of SUNY shared Bahamian students are gifted academically and are taking the field by storm. It was a landmark event that brought together many professionals in the maritime industry, many of whom graduated from the State University of New York. Alumnus Clayton Curtis says the aim of the luncheon was to form a closer partnership with industry players here and the university.
That's important to have the maritime industry personnel present because they're the future employers. They need to know how the industry is changing. All of Borco's pilots are alumni from the Maritime College. Freeport Harbor Company has a few pilots who graduated from the Maritime College. I understand the shipyard has a couple engineers, and there are several other industries here on Grand Bahama, as well as in Nassau, who are hiring persons from the school.
Former students of SUNY who are now in the maritime field also addressed the conference. President of SUNY shared how many Bahamian students are excelling at that institution, which is a premier maritime university in the United States.
They're student leaders, they're leaders in athletics, so they're very active, they're very engaged, they're very talented, and I'm very proud to have them at the school.
And here's what he says is most interesting.
We currently have 13 students in the Bahamas at the college. 5 of them are women, so that's about 40% of the Bahamian students are women. But when we look at the women from our U.S. women, only 10% of our overall student population are women. So in a school where only 10% of U.S. women are choosing the school, 40% of Bahamian women are choosing the school. I find that remarkable.
He says collectively, the Bahamian students have a GPA of 3.16.
And the funny part was when we talked to the Bahamian students about that, they want to know which students are dragging their average down because they think it should be higher than that. So again, they're very proud, and they're very proud of their country, and they're very proud of how they represent their country at the school.
The role of IRCA as national regulators could have some implications on services being offered here on the island of Grand Bahama. This issue is being discussed as local regulators are considering a proposal by the sole private power supplier here on the island. Joan Davis-Roll reports.
As the Grand Bahama Port Authority, regulators for power on Grand Bahama moves closer to making a decision regarding the fate of a proposal for a fee adjustment by the Grand Bahama Power, the role of IRCA as a national regulator is also being examined. It has been noted that the cost of power locally cannot exceed the cost of power nationally, and it is an issue which Sarah St. George, Vice Chairman of the GBPA, spoke to recently.
IRCA struggles with exactly the same things that GBPA struggles with, which is how to best reduce the cost to the customer of providing power without compromising the fact that everybody is entitled to have power, and you want that power to be stable. You want that power to remain on in bad storms. You want a good infrastructure in place. So, as I said earlier, it was reported that the rates elsewhere are around 34.4%. So that if you look at our 32 cents. Then we're very much, that puts it into context.
For years, the operating practices of Emera, the parent company of Grand Bahama Power, has been called into question. This as the fall of oil prices and no reduction in electricity plunge hundreds of households in the dark. A question put to Sarah St. George is whether other alternative energy entities or investors were being considered by the port to help drive down the cost of electricity here on Grand Bahama.
Well, built into the regulatory framework is the ability to have a power purchase agreement. So if another source of energy or another provider was able to produce a lower fuel component in some way.
Joan Davis-Roll, ZNS Network News.
Thanks, John. Well, police are still seeking the public's assistance in locating 3 male suspects. Wanted bulletins have been issued as all 3 of these men are wanted for stealing. The first suspect is 25-year-old Bernard Jerome Ferguson of number 200 Eleuthera Drive, Hawksbill. He is described as standing at 5 feet 11 inches tall, weighing 175 pounds with muscular build and medium brown complexion. The second suspect is 29-year-old Leroy Rashad McKenzie of number 44 Cove House, Bahama Reef Boulevard, Freeport. He is described as being 5 feet 11 inches tall, weighing 173 pounds, average build with dark brown complexion. Now, the third suspect is 20-year-old Tyrone Anthony Dames of number 19 Point Lookout Drive. He is wanted for housebreaking and stealing. He stands at 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighs 160 pounds, thin build with medium brown complexion. Police say the suspects should be approached with caution. If you have any information concerning these wanted men, you're asked to contact the police at the Eastern Division at 373-1112 or 374-3713, Central Detective Unit at 350-3107 or 12, or call your nearest police station. Police are also wishing to remind the public that it is a criminal offense to harbor a wanted person. Persons providing a safe haven for criminals will be prosecuted. Stay with us. The Bahamas Tonight continues right after this.